Hello again, welcome back to this second video on the 3 R's of performance enhancement. If you missed the first one, you'll find the link below in the description box. So it would be a good idea if you had a look at that first, just so that you understand some of the assumptions that the program runs with. Briefly to recap, I work from a premise that the mind and the body are intimately related. So when you're listening or thinking about the different aspects that I'm going to talk about, bear that in mind. So the first thing I think we're going to talk about today is mental resilience and why mental resilience is so important. Mental resilience is the psychological capacity that we have in order to deal really with when things get potentially challenging. Generally what happens is when things are going very well, we have a window of opportunity to enhance different ways of seeing the world or strengthening the psychological skill set that we have. However, generally what happens is people, when things are going well, they don't want to mess about with that system. So they tend to avoid doing maybe the additional training or skill set learning that they could do at that point. So really when we're talking about mental resilience, generally the clients I have come to me when things aren't going so well. And unfortunately, whilst we can do an awful lot during that time, it's probably not the best time. It'd be much more preferable if you worked on the skills when you didn't need them. And the reason being that when things are going quite, are challenging, when things are going wrong, when things aren't going the way we want them to, our resources are low. And that's not the time to be trying to learn new things, because often we're just struggling to keep our head above water. So the types of things that I would suggest that people concentrate when things are going well is learning how to practice concentration and focus activities, and I'll talk about them in a later video. But also we're looking at how to practice visualization, how to use our creative parts of our mind to be able to visualize the outcomes that we would really like to see happen. And generally for athletes, this means really being able to capture and enhance the feeling of getting in the zone. That moment that when performance just seems to flow. Very elusive feeling, but once kind of felt once. It's maybe the feeling or the kick that a lot of athletes are chasing, because they know there's moments when they're practicing that just everything goes together. And there's techniques and there's skills that we can learn that can help us recapture and relive those types of feelings, but also then really what we want to do is we want to learn how to do it on demand. So it's not kind of a rare event that we can't predict when it's going to come. We want it to come with a much more frequent, regular and predictable way. So that really is about, during those times when things are going well, that's the time that we can practice those sorts of skills. When things aren't quite so positive, it's really the time that we need to be able to draw on what's called positive self-belief. Now that's not the same as positive thinking. Positive thinking is kind of saying, nothing will ever go wrong ever in my life. That's fairy dust. That isn't true. Things are going to go wrong. There is no doubt about it, because life is like that. So positive self-belief is about learning the skills that we know that when something goes wrong, we have the belief and the skill set to deal with it. We have the internal strength to deal with it. We have the internal mechanisms and self-talk that we're able to cope with whatever's thrown at us. And that, again, is a skill that is best practiced when things are going well, because then it's reinforced in a time where our emotions are stable and when we generally are feeling pretty good anyway. So it reinforces that conversation. And finally, when we're talking about mental resilience, we're talking about communication and how we communicate, especially in team games with our teammates. These are very, very important, and there's some very basic rules of these. Often in team games we don't learn them, so things can go wrong, and when things go wrong we exacerbate those going wrong by adding to that with poor communication. So in the 3 R's of performance enhancement, what I really like to do is teach some of basically the golden rules of how to communicate, both with yourself but with your teammates as well, And that's before the game, that's during the game, and that's after the game. So that's all for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and you'll join me for the next one, which will be about physical robustness. Thank you very much.